Welcome, future masters. This problem from the daily puzzle should be fairly easy. You have to look at this, and I already have this thing figured out. It's not a big deal. But I'm going to help you look through it. The most important things, well, here's the 4 elements you have to look at when you're not sure what to do. I always look at the position just raw and go, basically my experience gives me a gut reaction, move, or sometimes a theme of what is going on just at first glance. And then if that doesn't do it for me, you go to the elements. We look at checking, we look at captures, we look at piece contact, we look at board situation. Now, board situation shows that the white queen is pinned. So anything guarded by a pinned piece is no longer guarded, right? So you look at that G3 pawn, not guarded. You look at that bishop, not guarded. You got anything that can take those pieces? Hopefully you said yes. This becomes, just looking at now if you went through and looked at the checks, like queen takes queen check, that's the only check we have. Captures, we have rook takes bishop, queen takes queen takes d5, c4, or a3, and that's all. Piece contacts, you'd be moving into position to, execute whatever. But just looking at those things is not as big. You come to the board situation, it's like, well, you have a pinned piece. Oh, that's a good one. It's usually a big tip-off. So, like I said, the pinned piece tells us that everything guarded by the pinned piece is not guarded. It just looks like it's guarded. So, we can take something that's guarded by the queen, right? Hopefully you said yes, and hopefully you said it's the bishop. So, the key thing about these problems is that no matter what your level is, work on your visualization. So we're going to visualize rook captures bishop. If we play rook captures bishop, what can he do? He can take my rook, right? Oh, he can't take it. It's pinned. There you go. But he could take my rook after taking my queen. If he goes queen takes my queen and I play b takes c5, what would white do? I hope you said rook takes f3, because that's what our rook is at. Which is true, except that, well, wait a second. When he took our queen, we may have another move. This is what is known as a desperado. The desperado is when the scenario of desperado is such where I take something, the opponent takes something. I take something else, he takes something else. And there's a sequence of takes by myself and by the opponent. The thing that you're looking for in the desperado, the biggest key you're looking for, is a move where you capture something and either check the guy or make a mating threat is usually the best one. The first one that comes to mind most often is the something takes something check. That's probably the second most useful and common would be you're taking something threatening checkmate. He has to respond to the checkmate threat, or he loses the game. So let's go back again. We're going to play rook takes bishop. He's going to play queen takes queen, trust me. It's his only chance for us to make a mistake. So he'll play queen takes queen. We need to move that rook out of the way because he's going to take the f3 rook. But we can take something with check. We could play either rook takes rook check or rook takes pawn check. Now hopefully you see that rook takes rook check is the better of the two, because that gets your rook that's in trouble out of trouble with check. And that's a key thing. When you have a piece in trouble, if you can get that piece out of trouble by capturing an equal piece or a bigger piece or a piece with check, you remove that liability from the board. So one of the things you're trying to do in chess is to remove liabilities of yourself and exploit liabilities of the opponent. So basically, I see rook takes bishop, queen captures queen, rook takes rook on f1 check for black. He'll play rook takes rook, and then we play pawn takes queen, and we have won a bishop. So I'm going to run through that one more time for you. Rook takes bishop, queen takes queen, rook takes rook check, rook takes rook, pawn takes queen on c5, we're a piece up. So let's get it. Did exactly what I said. Stick with a king. King, who cares? We are a piece up. We want a bishop off of this guy by properly understanding what was available on this position. The key element of this position is a pin. The queen is pinned. We exploited the pin. Okay? So, hopefully you got this or were able to follow it if you didn't figure it out on your own. This is one of the things we do is you work on your visualization. Oh, I need to mention this. This problem was, now every problem is going to be an odd number solution. We're making the first move, so it's always 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, whatever. So let's count and see how many this was. If you can do it in your mind quickly before I actually do the piece counting, that would be awesome. That means you're really on your game. Okay? So let's go ahead. I'm going to start now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is a 5-move problem. 2.5 moves, but you know, whichever way floats your boat. I call it 5 moves. It makes it simpler. You know, I'm not trying to make this complicated. We're not preparing you for some kind of crazy nitpicking exam. I'm a tournament chess player. I win tournaments. I'm telling you how to win tournaments, which starts with winning games. You got to win games before you win tournaments. So the things I tell you are the things that are real world applicable. We're not going to go and approach this like some kind of dork professor. Well, you'll see, we want to go and exchange off this bishop with our rook, and he's going to counter that with an exchange of queens, with which we will counter that counter with an exchange of rooks with check. Right? That's ridiculous. That's over technical jargon garbage. Rook takes bishop, queen takes queen, rook takes rook, check, you're toast. That's all you need to know. The oldest phrase in the book in English. Keep it simple, stupid. There you go. Just the facts. That's all we're interested in. The facts are rook takes bishop. He takes our queen. We take his rook with check. We've just removed our only liability. Let's look at it this way. I'm taking this bishop. The description is rook takes bishop because the bishop is not defended because the queen is pinned. You lose. He's like, okay, he's going to take our queen. Removing his pinned queen was a liability. He removes his liability with a capture. Always a good move. However, the only thing better than that is removing the liability that we have, which is this f3 rook hanging. This is what is known as a hanging piece. This piece is hanging to be captured. Well, we're not under check, and he's going to be. So rook takes rook check. Goodbye liability. If it's good for white, it's good for black, right? Both have removed their liability. We forced his king to capture, which is not what he wanted. He wanted us to make a mistake and go pawn takes queen, and he'd pocket an exchange. He'd win the rook for that bishop. And so we just go pawn takes queen. So it doesn't matter which way you prefer to describe this. I like to keep it simple. Rook takes bishop, queen takes queen, rook takes rook, check. If you like the other way, I always tell people that every move has a purpose. And if you can tell me the exact correct purpose behind the move, you're probably playing a really good move. Now, that doesn't apply to what is referred to as a trivial explanation. I'm moving this pawn just so I can move it. That's not the answer. It needs to have an absolute purpose. Like in the opening, g6 was moved so that the bishop could be developed to g7, and then the king will castle behind this bishop and this fortress. That's perfectly fine. But just to say you're going to move this pawn to a6 just because you can, that's not really the proper designation. Okay, so don't sell yourself short, and then don't try to cheap shot in people and try to act like you know things you don't know. You look like an idiot, not a genius. It's better if someone thinks you're an idiot and you're a genius than it is to present yourself as a genius and find out that you're an idiot. If you don't know, just be honest. Hey, I don't know, but I'm learning. Hey, that's the sign of a smart guy. So hopefully you enjoyed this little lesson. Help you out a lot. I'm telling you, stuff works every time. So like the video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. This one is just over 11 minutes and now about 10 seconds.